but in any event, my friend talked me into, I was like, well, here, why don't I front you 10 of these and you can sell, the other 8 and then you can keep the 2 for free. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to do them for free.
Entrepreneurship.
And so I took 2 of them and I drank 1 beer, and that's the last thing I remember. And I guess it was 2 or 3 days later, I wake up and, I initially woke up a little bit when they were pulling me off the floor, but apparently I had overdosed and I laid on the floor for numerous days.
And you had methadone in your system too, I think.
I don't remember having methadone in my system that time. I think it's Oxycontin and Xanax.
Okay.
There may have been some traces of methadone. I don't remember doing it, but I think the first one, I know my friend, he was selling Oxycontin, and I had a bag. The same guy who sold me the Xanax, he had all his Oxycontin too, so I know I was doing that while I was blacked out. And so basically I got left laying on the floor, and it cut off the circulation in my legs, and in one of my legs, and gave me compartment syndrome, and it basically just necrotized a bunch of muscle in my gluteal muscle in my thigh, and it pulled up in my leg. So whenever they actually did do the first surgery on me, I lost so much blood that I almost died right there. And so they were afraid to even try to touch the other leg, which I developed compartment syndrome in that leg while I was in the hospital. And so it's like now they're talking about amputating both my legs because I bled so much during the first one. And I remember Paul came into the operating room, and I remember just, he usually has perfect control of himself. You don't see him lose control very often, but he was having.
At least back then.
Not back then, and it was hard. It was hard to even watch him in that state, knowing that it was because of me. And it made even worse is my other brother Dave. His son was being born at this time as this was happening.
Wow.
All this was happening. His son was being born. He's finding out about me, and so it was just a really bad situation all around. And but Paul came into the room, and after I know you did a lot of work behind the scenes trying to get somebody to go through with the actual surgery to try to save my legs instead of, because they were wanting to amputate the pelvis, right?
Yeah.
And a double amputation at that. So we're talking about, he said, he thinks that I bled so much, that was his professional opinion, that all that blood was just all pulled up from from laying there for so many days, and that's where all that blood is coming from. But he thought that this leg, it just started, so it's not going to bleed as much. But he said he can't tell me what to do because he would never forgive himself if I didn't make it. And he told me, and I get that. So he's like,
to be clear, there was a real chance that you might die.
I know.
And we were trying to make and just if it's okay, I'll give you my perspective. Is I got a phone call. I was in New York. I was an anesthesiology resident. I was about 3 months from graduating, so I'd be like a full-fledged anesthesiologist. A lot of the doctors at the hospital I was at Bellevue, that's like a major, level 1 trauma center, they had seen what you've been through before, where the people in Tulsa had never seen it before. It was, you had rhabdo, it's called rhabdomyolysis, where you first got compartment syndrome, and then you developed a condition called rhabdo, where the blood cells would break down. It went to your kidneys, you were in full kidney failure, your blood wasn't clotting very well, and you had compartment syndrome. So when they opened up the first leg, you almost bled to death. So their plan was to amputate both legs at the pelvis and try to focus mostly on just not having you bleed to death. I had some of my trauma guys that worked on people during 9/11 and had dealt with similar injuries where they were down for several days before they got to them. And they kind of got on the phones with the ortho guys, and I flew in. And our suggestion was that we could do the same procedure on the left side and try to save both legs, but you might die. And we were talking through, you making the decision. And then back to you, this is where I can remember you kind of making that decision in the OR. Do you remember how we talked about it?
I do. I remember you came into the room, you told me that, I'm going to have to make the call at the end of the day. You told me what you thought my chances were as far as like bleeding out. You told me that it was a possibility that I could die, but you thought that it wasn't going to be as bad as the other leg because the other one had been stewing for so long. It just had a lot more time to pull up, and that landed with me. That is, even with all the trauma that was going on and all the stuff they had me on, that sunk into my head, and I was just like, you know, after I had like a little bit of a panic attack there, trying to, you know, sitting here I had like 20 minutes to make this decision. You know, do I want to risk possibly not making it out of the surgery, or do I want to go the rest of my life wondering what if? And, you know, I figured that at that point you made a persuasive argument for, you know, it being survivable. And so I decided I didn't want to go the rest of my life wondering what if. And I'm so thankful that I did today, you know, because, you know, now I still have, you know, physical issues and stuff, but, you know, I was paralyzed for a while. I was in a wheelchair, but, you know, I'm walking now, and I'm going to get a hip replacement this year, hopefully.
How many surgeries did you end up having?
12.
You remember? 12 surgeries.
Yeah, in a month and a half.
And you were in the ICU, like the burn unit, right?
Yeah, for 12 weeks.
For 12 weeks.
No, it was, it was 12 weeks.
And do you remember, at the end of that 12 weeks, they sent you home, and do you remember what they sent you home on? Like,
they gave me methadone and Klonopin.
Yeah, so benzos and opioids again. And
I lasted 5 months with mom and dad, you know, doling it out to me, but